LGBT, like, oh my god, and mind-blowing. Obviously not, you know. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This week I'm going to be talking about, as the title suggests, my ignorance to LGBTQ plus issues. You know, we're in July now, we just finished the month of June, and this is kind of known all over the world as Pride Month, and I kind of thought I would talk about this. And it's only something that actually really kind of came into my consciousness of how actually ignorant I was. I'm just going to kind of, give some examples of my ignorance and maybe why I was ignorant and what I've learned and just how I want to be going forward, I guess. And I guess I'm making this for maybe people who are like me, who were kind of taught the same way as me, and so therefore weren't like, oh, let's fight for LGBT, and I'll explain why in a minute. I'm making it for those people so we can kind of all kind of collectively come out of that unconscious world and go forward and fight for people who need it. So let's get started. So I think for me, like basically, I'll talk about the kind of the one thing that happened about a year ago that kind of was like to me. Basically, I went to the afters of a wedding, of a lesbian wedding, last year, and a lot of the guests at the wedding were gay, lesbian, everything, and it was my first time, I guess, ever really being in a kind of a very gay environment, you know, a very queer environment. I don't even know if those are like the correct words to use. And like, you know, I was chatting with all these different people, and you know, one guy was on about like the gay games, like these like Olympic games are apparently, and it's just gay people that compete like in these games, and I was like, oh my god, like, and just the way people were talking, it was like this whole world was opening up to me, and I was just like, oh my god. And you know, I remember there, like, someone else was, they had a gay swimming team, and there was just all these things that were like just for gay people, and I was just like, oh my god, like there's this whole other world. And again, any like gay or lesbian people or queer people watching will be like, oh my god, she's so annoying, like, yes, it's a whole other world. But I think that for me, my ignorance was rooted in just the fact that for me, like growing up, like being gay or being, you know, just not straight essentially was always just this completely normal thing in my life. You know, like I had gay relatives, like it was just always this very, very not big of a deal when I was growing up. And so it actually was rooted in my ignorance. I now learn it was kind of like rooted in that, because I just thought like being gay was so grand and was so, there was no big deal about it. Therefore, like I just didn't see it as this big issue, and that's actually not okay, you know. And what I kind of liken it to is people who say like, oh, I don't see color, you know, who were like, oh god, I'm so fine with black people, but it actually blinds them. I feel like it was kind of like that. It was like, you know, to me being gay was so fine. It's not a thing to not like someone over, or to mock someone over, or, you know, worse, abuse someone over. Therefore, I didn't see it as this different thing. It was kind of like, oh, well, you know, sure, we're all the same, but it's like, we're not all the same, but that's fine. Like, that's beautiful. And so I feel like it was kind of rooted in that. And I was at this afters of this wedding, and I was just like, oh my god, like there is actually this whole other gay culture, you know, that I'm not a part of, you know, because I'm straight. And that was just fascinating to me, and it kind of was just like, oh my god, I'm really ignorant. And I think just the fact that I thought it was just this whole other culture, and that word kind of fascinates me about it. And it was from then that I realized, I was like, this is just a whole other thing that I'm not going to be a part of, and that I need to learn about. Like, this is, you know, it's not just that, like, you know, we're similar people, but, you know, they're just gay. Like, it is actually just like, if you want to be, you know, active member, you know, in the kind of gay community, like it is this whole other place that I'm never ever gonna know about because I'm straight. So I was kind of like, okay, Lauren, you need to stop acting like, you know, there's not this whole other culture, because there is, and like you should learn about it and, you know, actively kind of get involved. And I don't even know how to really kind of phrase it. It was just, I was just awoken to how ignorant I had been, and I was like, okay, I can't just go around saying, oh yeah, like being gay is great. I need to actively educate myself on the amazing fun things of the queer community, but also the bad things. Like, again, I think my ignorance and my, you know, oh my god, being gay is so fine, just completely blinded me from the really bad things that still happen all over the world. And as just a giant feminist, I was just like, how can I I kind of thought because I'm straight that I obviously don't know as much about the queer community, so I couldn't talk about it, but I was just like, this is a feminist issue, so like, why am I not talking about it? And I thought it was the perfect place to start, was just talk about my ignorance and how I got to the stage of being like, okay, Lauren, you should probably actually learn about this. And like, I'm, as a feminist, again, I'm so aware to the bad things that happen to women all over the world, and like, really bad things are still happening to gay people or queer people. Like, it's like really bad things, like people are still being attacked, murdered, particularly trans people. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. And I think, we think of all these different cultures, and like kind of protected statuses, whether like ethnic minorities or, that kind of thing. And I think kind of in recent years, I know the UN recognized like LGBT rights as like human rights and like as an actual group, an actual kind of group that needs protection. And again, I think maybe that was kind of twofold that it took so long. Maybe because one, people still don't think it's okay to be gay or whatever you may be. But also I think for me, it's just like maybe ignorance I just thought like, I know kind of like, ethnic minority groups are being persecuted, but I never, because I thought, being gay was so normal and so fine. It never occurred to me that this was also a group that was being persecuted, whether you're, a cis gay man or a cis gay woman or, even worse than trans, it's just horrific and we need to be aware. And again, probably every queer person watching is like, okay, Lauren, we've been aware, but I wasn't. And now I'm like, okay, no, I really need to do more about this, particularly as a feminist. I need to do more about this. And then like, particularly for trans people, because like I'm here like feminist, gender equality. So it's like, you obviously need to fight for trans people because it's gender inequality. Like there's so many questions about gender in the trans community, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, obviously I would fight for that as well. So yeah, I'm just we need to awake. And yeah, and like Pride Month is also like colorful and like fun, and like, the queer community is associated with so much fun and just loveliness, but we like, I feel like that shouldn't blind us to the horrific stuff that still continues to happen to people of that community. So I'm very passionate about it. And I want to talk about some other stories that happened kind of, in the last few years, but that kind of awoke me as well and kind of checked me a little bit. And I tell these so that maybe you can be checked as well if you're kind of maybe ignorant to these stuff as well. So one was like, I was with a friend again about a year and a half ago, and we were talking about it. This is a gay man friend and gay man friend, and we were talking about holding hands in public and like PDA and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I like holding hands. I'm not like you. I wouldn't be like all over my boyfriend or anything, but I like holding hands. And he was like, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind holding hands, but like, I can't really do that with my boyfriend. And I was like, oh. And it was something so simple. But I was just like, yeah, you're so right. It actually is not that safe for you to hold hands with your boyfriend when you're out and about. And it was just, again, he said it so just kind of like nonchalantly, because that's normal. That's his life, that he has to think about that kind of thing. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, that's something, like, I can walk around the place, hold my boyfriend's hand, no bother. And for me, it's funny, I actually feel a lot safer holding my boyfriend's hand as a woman, because people will then leave me alone, so it's funny that like the same act between two men then can actually lead to danger, so that was one example that I was just like, oh God, that's just so sad. Another story, again, a few years ago, I was talking to a friend, and she's bi, and she had been with a woman for a long time and was now dating a guy. And I remember I just said something stupid. I kind of basically, and I'm so embarrassed even like saying this story, but I was like, I kind of said that, like, that classic question of like, oh, which one do you prefer, and which way, do you like, oh. And in fairness, like, she didn't call me out or anything. She totally could have, but I just knew, I knew in her face kind of just went like, in the moment, so I knew that I had said something wrong. Actually, I often think just like kind of giving someone a look or kind of going a bit quiet is like one of the most effective ways of calling someone out, because like, if they're self-aware enough, they're going to know that they asked something wrong. And I knew in that moment, I was just like, oh, that's such an ignorant question to ask. But I remember, I asked that, and she was kind of just like, oh, like, that's just not a thing that I, think about or whatever, And I know now, like, some people might be maybe prefer women or prefer men, or some maybe are 50-50, or it can go all different ways. But like the fact is, like, I should, like, why does that even matter? Or like, why was I even asking? So it's just kind of, yeah, it's a funny one. So again, like, it's just like, maybe we, not saying don't go and ask that question, but it's just like, it's just kind of a weird one. Like, it's also just kind of none of my business. You know what I mean? That's really what it comes down to. It's none of my business. And then another story, finally, I remember when Bruce Jenner was, just before he kind of, she, Caitlyn now obviously transitioned, I remember it was all in the news, and it, Bruce hadn't come out yet. It wasn't this open thing yet. I remember there was just pictures, and he, I'm not sure whether he was using she then, but like there was just Bruce in a dress. It wasn't pictures that he wanted out, I don't think, and the world was up in arms. And this is the first kind of sign that we knew that, oh, Bruce Jenner is transitioning, or is trans. And I remember I didn't say anything bad. I wasn't like, oh my god, like, I wasn't like that person who was like, oh my god, trans people are freaks, not at all. But I remember saying to a friend of mine, I remember just being like, oh, about Kendall and Kylie, just being like, oh, like, they're so young, and I kind of, I wasn't saying anything like outrageously negative, but I was just kind of like, oh god, this is going to really impact them, like. And I definitely was alluding to, him transitioning being a bad thing. That definitely was where my mind was. But I was kind of, I was kind of coming at it from the aspect of like, oh, Kendall and Kylie, like, poor them, poor them, like, why? Obviously it's big change, and obviously it's, it's a huge struggle, but like, having a trans parent isn't the end of the world. And I was kind of maybe acting like it was. But I remember again, just my friend kind of just, I can't remember what they said back, but like he was kind of just, again, kind of gave me a bit of a look. And again, I knew that I had said something a bit off, like a bit weird. And I think even though my comment wasn't outrageously malicious, it wasn't like I was like, oh, trans people are weird. I think it's like the trans community gets so much hate that it's just like, you just any kind of even small comment like that is just not that beneficial, or it's just sad, because like it's just adding, even if it's a kind of like not that bad of a comment, it's just in a sea of people who hate trans people. So we just, I think, need to be more actively just not even making comments like that. I don't know, but yeah, I just remembered that, and I feel that was ignorant. But I was so ignorant then. Oh my god, trans issues. I mean, like, Bruce Jenner and like Caitlyn Jenner, like, is the first person that I really knew, that was famous, that transitioned, and obviously like Caitlyn Jenner is like, I don't think anyone actually likes her, but to be fair, like, she was the first person who told me about trans issues, and I know the trans community doesn't even really like her as like a spokesperson for their community, but she was the first person that I kind of saw that I kind of was like, okay, and then I went looking more myself. So yeah, I just wanted to say that for no reason. Yeah, and so then just kind of like want to mention at the end, recently, a few months ago, before Miss Rona appeared, I did LGBTQ plus training, awareness training, which was amazing. And again, just like I try to do a lot of trainings, and it's just like you go in all excited to learn, and you just realize how much you don't know. And again, it's just kind of, I wasn't that shocked because I knew that I needed to learn stuff, but again, you're just like, God, there is so much to learn. And again, because I just thought, being gay was so normal, so grand, I really underestimated how much there was to this community and how much there was to learn. And like, it was almost kind of like a, like, I'm friends with black people kind of thing, therefore I'm not racist. It was kind of like that. It was like, I kind of maybe subconsciously thought like, oh, well, I've gay friends, I've gay relatives, so I know everything there is to know. Obviously not, so it was great to do that training, and I honestly, I would recommend to anyone, because you'll be shocked at what you don't know. And it was just brilliant just to learn like just different kind of terminology, and that like some people like some terms, other people won't like those terms, and just the kind of, just really one of the big take-homes I took from it was just whatever people want to identify as themselves, like that's what you should call them, you know what I mean? Like what, word they use, or what term they use, what group they feel they belong to, like that's for them to decide, and it's not for us to put that on them. Whether you're, gay, lesbian, queer, trans, whatever, and like it's just that's for them to decide. And that was just kind of one of the biggest take-homes I took from it, and it was genuinely fab. So if you can get to that kind of training wherever you are, I would recommend. yeah, and so yeah, finally I kind of just wanted to yeah, drive home the notion that this is a community that is far from done fighting for its rights, genuinely. And I am, yeah, the first person to just be like, I have been violently ignorant and I will do better. And I guess just if you're a kind of person who was like me, you know, and it was like, oh god, no, they're fine. Like this community, I mean, like they're like you can be discriminated getting a job, you're at higher risk for like self-harm and suicide and being kicked out of your house for being who you are, you know, at a young age, and being homeless, and you're at far more risk for being just verbally attacked online or in person, or physically attacked, you know, murdered. Like, oh my god, I mean, and what kills me is, like, you know, the debate about, you know, trans men and women in bathrooms and stuff, and it's like, you know, you're worried about, you know, the cis people in the bathroom, but it's like the trans people are far more risk of being harmed or murdered just for being trans. So it's like, what kind of conversation are we actually really having here? So yeah, it's just a community that still needs work, you know, and so I'm going to try and do more of that. So thank you for watching this week's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. If you want to subscribe to my channel, I would love that, and give the video a thumbs up. That would be great. And I will see you all in next week's video. Bye.